A rooftop feels safe to people who only count ground threats. That is the first mistake. They look up and see distance. Distance from the street. Distance from doors. Distance from drifters moving lane to lane. Distance from whatever is happening at eye level. And they call that safety. Wrong read. Height is not shelter. Height is only height. I move up onto a ruined rooftop at dusk. Tar paper split. Broken vent housings, old puddle stains, loose-edged debris. A low parapet that looks more protective than it is. Two nearby roofs close enough to matter. One access door below me that suddenly matters more than I want it to. From up here, the city looks solved. That is the danger. A roof gives you the feeling of control before it proves whether it can actually hold you. That makes it attractive to tired minds. They see a place above the problem, a place out of traffic, a place with sightlines, a place where they can finally stop turning around every few seconds. That is what pulls them up here. Not shelter logic, relief logic. So today, I'm mapping why rooftops become bad shelter after collapse. Not because they are never usable, because most people read them wrong before the weather, the block, and the root logic get a turn. First problem. Rooftops overpromise visibility and underdeliver protection. People love saying high ground gives information, sometimes. What they forget is that information is not the same thing as cover. From a roof, I may see farther, but being able to see farther doesn't mean I can do anything useful with what I see, and the roof sees me too. That is the trade. A rooftop gives long sight lines at the cost of cleaner silhouette, cleaner movement, cleaner pattern. Now I'm not just watching the block. The block can watch me back, especially at dawn, at dusk, in low-angle light, against pale sky, against open background, against parapet line. That matters more than people think, because shelter should blur me. A rooftop often simplifies me. A body moving on a roof reads differently than a body moving in broken street geometry. On the ground, clutter helps. On the roof, emptiness tells on you. So yes, a rooftop can help me read the city. But if it makes me easier to read in return, that is not a clean win. That is a dangerous bargain. Second problem, rooftops fail weather fast. This is where fantasy survival thinking starts collapsing. People imagine a roof like it's half a room. It's not. A rooftop takes weather harder than most other shelter positions in the block. More wind, more exposure, more direct cold, less thermal stability, less meaningful barrier between me and the sky. That means the roof starts charging me early. A bad gust matters more up here. A wet patch matters more up here. A temperature drop matters more up here. A bad sleep setup matters more up here. And once weather starts leaning on the body, everything else gets worse. Judgment, patience, movement, noise discipline, exit timing. That is the part desperate people miss. A roof does not need to collapse to stop being viable. It only needs to cost the body more than it's worth. A lot of rooftops lose that fight fast, especially the ones that look good enough in the current minute. That phrase gets people hurt. Good enough now. A real shelter read is never about now. It's about later. Rooftops make later expensive. Third problem, rooftops turn escape into commitment. This is one of the ugliest failures in rooftop shelter logic. People see one access point and think control. Sometimes one access point is not control. Sometimes it's dependence. That stairwell below me, that service ladder, that adjacent jump, that maintenance hatch. That isn't flexibility. That is my future getting narrowed into fewer answers. And fewer answers get expensive under pressure, because a roof often makes leaving harder than arriving. That is the trap. Climbing up feels like a decision. Getting down becomes a problem, especially tired, especially wet, especially in dark, especially when something shifts in the block and the roof stops feeling quiet. Now every escape route is vertical, exposed, delayed, or all three. That is bad shelter. Bad shelter is any position that reduces my correction speed. A roof does that fast. If I have to think too long about how to exit, The shelter has already started turning against me. Fourth problem. Rooftops carry signal farther than people think. Sound, silhouette, light, movement, all of it changes up here. A small scrape on the roof reads differently than a scrape inside a room. A shifting tarp reads differently. A fire reads much worse. A body standing at the wrong edge becomes a message. A shadow near a parapet becomes a message. A little light leakage becomes a message, and the higher, cleaner, and emptier the roof feels, the more that message travels. This is where people confuse quiet with concealment. A rooftop can feel quiet because fewer things are immediately near you. That doesn't mean fewer things can detect you. Sometimes it means the opposite. The roof strips away interference. Now even small activity has more room to carry. That is terrible for shelter. Shelter should absorb. Shelter should break. Shelter should complicate. A roof often transmits, and once the place starts transmitting your presence, it's no longer helping you rest. It's helping the block remember where you are. Fox rule. High ground is not good shelter if the whole block can still solve you. That is the lesson. A lot of people worship elevation because elevation feels like advantage. Sometimes it is. For scouting, for reading routes, for getting a wider sense of the block, not automatically for sleeping, not automatically for holding, not automatically for surviving weather, sound, and exit pressure all at once. That is the drift trick. Separate scouting value from shelter value. A roof might be a good place to read from, and a terrible place to stay. Those are not contradictions. Those are different jobs. I use high ground to understand. I don't automatically trust it to protect. If a position improves my view but weakens my weather hold, my concealment, and my escape logic, then it's not shelter. It's only perspective. Perspective is useful. Perspective isn't enough. Now watch the bad read happen. A tired drifter reaches the roof at dusk. He sees city lines, open sight, no one immediately near him. A wall edge, a dry corner, enough space to finally stop moving, so he settles. That is the mistake. The roof starts failing him in layers, wind first, then temperature, then route dependence, then signal, then the slow realization that he is easier to locate, easier to isolate, and harder to move than he was 2 floors lower. The street felt dangerous. The roof felt clean. That is why he chose it. But clean ground isn't always good ground. Sometimes clean ground just means the world has fewer things between you and the problem. That is the payoff. A rooftop isn't shelter because it's high. It's only shelter if it still protects weather, movement, concealment, and decision quality. Most don't. So the next time you look at high ground after collapse, don't ask the tired question. Not, can I get above the danger? Wrong question. Ask better ones. Can this place actually hold weather? Can I leave fast? Can I stay hard to read? Does the roof protect me or only flatter me? That is how I read rooftops. Not as victory, not as automatic advantage, as another piece of bad ground that has to prove itself before I trust it. What dead place should I map next? Drop the next drift.